for this video, I'm going to run through answering a question for somebody quite comprehensively that they've asked on Reddit. So I'd like to know if it was possible in Freshservice, for example, when submitting a service request, my supervisor, Mr. X, is also the department head. In the approval workflow, Mr. X is both the first approver and the last approver representing the department. Is there a way to automatically skip the last approval step when the first approver and the department head are the same person? Great question. So that we're all clear on what the typical behavior is, here in my Fresh instance, what we've got is a request for a MacBook. So I have set this workflow up for a MacBook so that it goes to the line manager and then the department head. In my instance, in this case, Jack's line manager is Andrea, and Andrea is the line manager and the department head. So we'll see if we just let the workflow do its thing, what's going to happen here. So I'm going to hit that place request. My workflow is going to kick in. It's going to go and ask Andrea for approval. So let me show you real quick what this looks like. Very simple workflow. Service request is raised. Service request is for a MacBook. Send it to the line manager, send it to department head. So we can see this has now come in and it's gone to Andrea as we expected. So let me just go in my other window real quick. Here I am pretending to be Andrea. Excuse me. And there's my request. So here's my request for Jack on behalf of Andrea, and I'm approving as the line manager. Now when I hit approve with this, the workflow is going to come back through again, and you might hear it blink in the background. There it goes. Here's my update, and you can see the workflow has gone and asked Andrea again for approval because she is also the line manager, and that's what this particular requester on Reddit is trying to get around. So that's fine, we can do that. It just takes a little bit of webhooks, and this is where in your Freshservice, if you can start using the webhooks and a little bit of Boolean logic, you can get a lot done. Go in and approve, and now you can see it's approved, but I've had to approve it twice as the department head. Not ideal when your department heads are obviously very busy. They tend to be quite sensitive to ticket fatigue and all that sort of stuff. What we've actually done is on our other workflow for an iMac rather than a MacBook, just using some of the defaults outside of Fresh to make life easy when I'm making these examples. Hopefully then they look quite familiar to you as well. I'm going to show you how this is going to work first before I show you it working. So that's the one we just looked at, where I've just copied it real quick. This is the one that's now going to de-duplicate out the first and last approver. So in our example here, service request is raised. Rather than a MacBook, we're doing Apple Mac, just to make it easy. We're going to send it to the reporting manager first. And once we've done the reporting manager approval, we're going to use a series of webhooks to go and get information about the line manager, and then information about the department. I've realised there is a mistake in my little notation here, so let's fix that while we're talking about it. Keeping it real. Get the approver. Oops, move my mic off my spacebar. We're going to. This is get the department. There you go. Right. So what we're doing in this workflow, sending to the reporting manager as an approval object. That's all default behavior within Fresh. They make it really easy. This placeholder is driven by whatever you've got in your requester field, and presumably you are linked up to your Azure or your G Suite or whatever it is that you're using for identity management, and that's pulling it automatically. Great. What we actually want to do with this ticket is now say, okay, in order to make the decision about whether or not the person who just approved it is also a department head, we've got to go make a couple of calls, and we're going to make some logical leaps. So what we're first going to do is go into our API call, and we're going to go specifically looking for the ticket ID and the approvals on that ticket. So when I do that, what was my last ticket number? Real quick, so I can show you what it looks like. There we go, 18. What that's going to do then is pull back the details of the approval on that ticket, so you can see there's the ID of the approval, when it was created, when it was updated, who approved it, what's the name of the approver, and obviously that's their primary key, the user ID, the username, so that's the system asking the approval rather than maybe an agent asking, and what the current status is, it's approved. If it was one that I would just triggered, it would say requested, and it's provided the last remark there. So we're then going to take that output from our API hook, our webhook, and we're going to pass that through into here. So, one second, obviously not quite right. So if you were doing this in real life, we'd come in here and say 18, let's pull my ticket back up. Oh, look at the wrong one. Look at the wrong one, Roxanne. There we go. Right. There's my body. No, it was there. So I'm in the wrong thing. So we've now said to our Freshservice Workflow, go and look at the response body of our webhook, take this JSON, and then give us the output. And what you can see here then is this is giving us the logical structure of that little package of text that's come through, basically. And we can see all the details here. Now, typically, these are set as arrays. And the problem with passing the array in a workflow is it then makes it really difficult to compare, because the order of things will depend on the value of them. So maybe they're listed numerically or alphabetically, but that list isn't going to be static because it's going to be different every time. So when we come to do these comparisons and stuff like that, what we need to do is come in here and hit edit. We change this from array of numbers to just number, and we change this from star to 0 here. That allows us to pull the most recent record of that approval, because obviously this may then have been approved in lots of places. And then you can see that's now giving me that value there. Now it's quite possible, if I'd given you a more complicated example, that this approval payload could have had lots of approvals in it, and it would have then been a comma separated list. But we can see now it's just giving me that. It's great. So now I've got the ID number of the line manager who was the first approver. What I'm then going to do is then use that value to go and look up that person's details. So in my next API call, what I'm actually doing is going out and looking at the requesters table, and I'm using that placeholder that I've had in my JSON in P1 to say, okay, take that number, now pass that into the next webhook and go and get me the value of the line manager. So go get me the details of the line manager, which I did not copy properly, which I need. So let me just go pull that back real quick. There I am. Get the approver. And I'm going to pull all their details back. And this is now going to give me all the details that I've got logged against that line manager. So here again, you can now effectively see every field that I store in that table. And what it's going to tell me is the department ID. And that's the one I'm really going to care about. And the next thing, to go and look at whether or not they are a department head. So is a VIP user, all these sorts of things we can go through and see, but it doesn't tell us whether they're a department head right now. And we can see Andrew's then been pulled forward. So we've gone and got Jack's details. Jack's details have told me who their line manager is, and then we've gotten that line manager's department ID. So there we go. Right, we're going to do the same thing again in terms of the JSON. So this should look something more like, not like that. It should look something more like this to give you the full. Oh, it's because I copied the department ID. I won't make you watch me go back over again. We'll talk through it again. What we've then got again is paste that payload in there. That's given me this output. I've obviously cleared it at some point, but my workflow's running for now. This is just the demo. You get the idea. So again, we've changed this department ID number from array of numbers to number, and we've changed that star value to a 0. So it gives me the most recent number on the top. Now, the only challenge with this is going to be if you've got people that belong to multiple departments, this might end up not quite perfect for you in terms of when you're comparing, but generally one person, one department head, it should work the majority of the time. So we've been in and changed that. That's then going to pass that department ID back out again for me. And then I can finally then go into my final webhook and go and fetch the department based on that output. So there's my output there. If I didn't save it, there we go. And now I'm going to pull back the table that tells me about the department. And And there's my department, and there's my head user ID, which is important for our comparison, right? Because we want to know whether the person who's the head of that department is also the same person that just approved our request. And then we're going to pass that back through again. That allows us to get into these placeholders. Again, we didn't need to change this one because it wasn't an array. You can only be one department head. Sorry, this one, not that one. So this is the number that we really care about when we're then going to do the comparison. So now what we have in our workflow is effectively, in our workflow is the details about the approver of the ticket, the approval on the ticket, the details of the approver, and the details of that approver's department. We're then going to compare the value. So what we're now going to do is come into our condition block, and I've chosen just to put this straight in a condition block rather than its own expression because I only need a true-false outcome. And what I'm asking the workflow to check is the ID of the person that approved it in the first place the same as the ID of the person listed as the departmental head? If they are the same, then we are going to do, if they are the same, that's going to come out as a false, and we're going to go down in our workflow. If they're different, if I just change one of these digits here, then it's going to come out as true. So I want to make sure they are not the same in this scenario. If they are not the same, meaning the line manager of meaning the line manager of the person making the request is not also the department head, then we're just going to use the standard Freshservice behavior, send the email to the department head. In my one, I've just got a little note in here, so I was checking it was working it properly. You may or may not want to do that yourself. If these values are the same, meaning they equal each other, we're just going to ignore it. And then again, in this case, I've added a little note that says the department head approval has been skipped because the head of the department already approved. And if I wanted to, I could come in here and I could add any of the details from our department field, for example. I think I didn't add this in because it didn't actually have the name of the person. It only had their ID. So it would look a bit funny. But you can tidy up, do whatever you want for your thing. Right, so that's the workflow. That's how you would do it. Let's make a quick ticket. I'll show you how it works, how that actually works in real life. So we just saw Jack asked for a MacBook. The MacBook then went to Andrea twice because she was listed as an approver twice. If I now link this to my Mac, my example with Jack, he's asking for a lot of stuff at the moment. You see, workflows run. Immediately we've gone to the line manager for approval. There's Andrea. Let's bring Andrea back up again here with her approvals in the portal. And she can hit approve. So in this first instance, Andrea is hitting approve as the line manager. You're going to hit approve. You're going to hear my Fresh blink at me in the background with its little dinky noises. And you're going to see that's gone straight to an approved status rather than going back to requested status. And you see here, our two values equaled each other. So therefore, we were no on our workflow condition and we came down to say department head approval has been skipped. Head of department already approved. So that's how you would do it. Ideally, I think for me, Fresh would come in and deduplicate that automatically, but then I'm sure you would get situations where people would want to have somebody approved twice because it needs two signatures. Pardon me, but that's how you would do it. So we can go in and see this running in the background. So you can see all our API calls running successfully here. So we've gone and got the approval details, we've gone and got the requester details, we've gone and got the department details, we've made a comparison of the two values, and we've then successfully approved the change. There you go. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that kind of takes you through a little bit about APIs, a little bit about what you can do with them. There are obviously lots and lots of things that you can do with workflows and APIs, and I cannot profess to be an expert on those sorts of things. Fresh, I know pretty well. And if there's any questions or anything else that somebody's like, hey, can I do this with Fresh, and they want to come and ask, I'm more than happy to make a video about it. So thanks very much for your time today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest features and tutorials. If you or your organization need help with Freshservice, check out our consulting, implementation, training and support services at our website. zestco.uk. Zest, a fresh perspective.